you're going to get punched back a lot. And this isn't, the old Big 12 days where Oklahoma destroys everybody, every single week, except for one game a year. And, I'm not saying that in any other way other than, man, every week, man, there's big, long, fast, explosive dudes, great staffs, really good quarterback play, tremendous lines of scrimmage, things of that nature. And so I think again, both things, can be true.
Well, that was the comment that had everybody up in arms after Brent Venables' press conference today. I think it was Andy Staples that pointed out on Twitter, Brandon Drum, that if Bob Stoops makes that same comment, the Big 12 doesn't say a word. But as it was, he got a quote tweet from the Big 12 conference, and now there's apparently beef, whether real or perceived, between Brent Venables and Brett Yormark. I mean, he's not wrong, right? He's not wrong. Oklahoma did run the Big 12, but you do have to be ready for the smoke to come back at you when you, as a head ball coach, didn't have the same type of success individually in your 2 years coaching in the Big 12, at least as the head man that Oklahoma did throughout their longer stint in the conference.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think everybody kind of glosses over just because we're a society of what have you done for me lately. We're a society of, I guess, recency bias. And whatever, right or wrong, it's who we are. People tend to forget Brent Venables has 7 Big 12 rings during his time as defensive coordinator at the University of Oklahoma and co-DC, obviously, with Mike Stoops. But he was DC, I believe. What was he, DC, I think, the whole time? I mean, he was co-DC 99 to 2003. He took over as DC, shared it a little bit with the homeboy that went to Nebraska. I just lost his name off the top of my head. But, I mean, overall, he was a defensive coordinator for a long time at OU and won a lot of games and had some of the best defenses in college football in the Big 12. So if somebody understands the Big 12, Parker, it's Brent Venables. And yeah, he didn't do as well as the head coach in the Big 12. He still was, one game away from playing in the Big 12 title in 2023. So it's not like he just crapped the bed. He wasn't great in 2 years in the Big 12, but he didn't crap the bed. I mean, it just wasn't great. It wasn't Oklahoma standards. So, but I get the beef. But there seems to be some issue that Oklahoma left the Big 12 still. Some remaining, I guess, vitriol towards OU.
I believe homeboy that went to Nebraska that you referenced would be Bo Pelini.
Bo Pelini, yeah. I just went blank on Pelini, yeah.
But yes, let's shift the focus here to more meaningful topics of conversation, all of which surround Oklahoma's loss to Texas on Saturday and what the path forward looks like for this team. Unsurprisingly, Brent Venables was asked about John Mateer. We spoke to John Mateer last night, spoke to Ben Arbuckle earlier in the day, but here's what Venables had to say about the state of that offense and the reality that everybody needs to play better, not just John Mateer.
And again, John, he told you himself he feels like he needed to make a few better decisions and be a little more patient, let the game come to him. And he's anxious and amped up, and like everybody was, and probably pressed a little bit. But you play quarterback at a high level when everybody around you is playing at a high level as well. We need to get better. We need to improve. Everybody around them need to be a little more efficient with what they're doing, fundamentally, physically, technically, all of those things.
And look, no question, Brandon, on an individual basis, you can look at the game on Saturday, and I think the logical conclusion to come to was that John Mateer is most individually culpable for Oklahoma's loss. He played poorly. He plays the most important position on the field, and Oklahoma's offensive identity is such that he can't play poorly. Otherwise, they're not going to win. That's a lot of pressure to carry, but to his credit, he's not somebody that has made excuses at any juncture. And he stood up there in front of the microphone and said, it had nothing to do with my thumb. I have to play
Mhm.
better. I have to process better. That said, what Venables mentioned also rings true, which is that the offense has to be better around Mateer as well. And that starts up front, most specifically.
Yeah, this whole offensive line issue is really bad right now, Parker. One, you have to respect Mateer for just owning it. Like, he played awful, and he knows he played awful. I mean, time and time again, wide open guys running deep, and he just didn't have the confidence. And I don't think he would readily admit that publicly, but you could tell he didn't have the confidence in the grip in his thumb. He struggled. He threw the ball low on intermediate passes quite a bit, which that has a lot to do with your grip. Your thumb has a lot to do with the trajectory of the ball. And it played a role, but he's not going to let that be an excuse because he went out there and played. So I respect that. However, thumb or not, you can't play well if and your eyes sometimes aren't going to be great if people are at your feet at all times. I mean, think about it. Early in the game, they blow the whistle dead, and a defensive tackle gets through and hits him low. And I think that remained with him a little bit throughout the game because that was scary. I think we all thought he possibly injured his knee at that time. And he got up, laying there for a minute. But yeah, that the offensive line, the run game, I thought the pass blocking was good. I just don't understand a lot of what they're doing with the offensive line, Parker. I don't understand it. I understand 6 of the top 11 guys have some sort of injury or are out, which isn't great at all. That's beyond good. It's awful. Once again, OU snake bitten with injuries on the offensive line, as you can tell. But be that as it may, they're still out there. They still have depth. They still recruited. They still have guys that should be able to come out there and play, and they're just not. They have to figure out a way to get the run game going. And Parker, let me ask you this. Every time they got the run game going, they were spread wide, air raid, wide open, spread everybody out and just ran. And Tory Blaylock got loose. Xavier Robinson got loose a little bit. Obviously, Mateer got loose. And then they would go back with tight formations with tight ends that can't block. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Got to find what works at this point. And whatever works, whatever that may be, you got to stick with it if you're to establish a running game. And that's going to be integral to Oklahoma's offensive success the rest of the way because it can't just be John Mateer. Now, you used the word snake bitten, and that was exactly the word that Brent Venables applied to one of Oklahoma's running backs that has yet to crack the rotation this year. And we've yet to see him on the field much, actually at all. That would be Taylor Tatum. He addressed Tatum's status and he addressed Javante Barnes's status in breaking down the backfield.
Yeah, no, Javante, something happened in pregame. Something we thought initially it was hamstring, but there's something else. But I think it'll be a short-term thing. I don't really have any other information. He didn't practice yesterday, but he's moving around. And then Taylor's had one thing after the other. He practiced yesterday, but between stingers and an ankle and a hamstring, he's kind of been snake bit.
It finally feels, Brandon, as though halfway through the season, a clear hierarchy is emerging. And the hierarchy has Tory Blaylock at the top. Crazy as that is, I don't know that was on anybody's bingo card heading into the season, but he's been impressive.
Mm-hmm.
He's given Oklahoma a threat on the ground, a threat that really hasn't existed when any of the other backs are in the game, at least not with that type of consistency. And so feels like you can pretty much count on Jaden Ott's role going forward being minimal and Blaylock getting the lion's share of the work. It's going to be intriguing to see how much Barnes factors into the picture going forward, though. Because if Blaylock can really round in a form as a pass blocker, I mean, that is kind of the heart of Barnes's role in this backfield, is it not? So if Blaylock can become the type of guy that you can rely on every single down as a pass blocker whenever his number is called in that regard, what meat is there left on the bone for Javante Barnes at that point?
Yeah, it's going to be weird to see how that works out. And obviously, you know, BB confirmed what we had heard kind of quietly on Saturday night, that, they're just doing warm-ups. They're doing team warm-ups, literally running team drills, and Javonte Barnes is out there. He gets a handoff, he runs, and he pulls his hamstring. Like, what is like, you saw BV kind of laugh, Parker, right? That same exact laugh was the same exact laugh a source did whenever they told me about it on Saturday night. And they were just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, nothing will go right with this offense as far as injuries go. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And even with that, like, if he comes back, is he going to find a place to get into the rotation? Are they going to stick with Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson if Xavier Robinson's healthy? Like, is that, do we assume that's going to be the rotation, right? Moving forward, it has to be, right? At this point. I mean, I'm asking you, what are your thoughts?
Again, you have to stick with what works. And what works to this point is Torrey Blaylock.
It's essentially all that works right now.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody else in that backfield has proven to be a regular threat when handed the football. And Torrey Blaylock has. And again, if that's what works, that's what you lean on. And it felt from Arbuckle and Venables pressers today as if that's what Oklahoma intends to do. Now, defensively, one of the biggest stock risers of the offseason and certainly of the first half of the season here in 2025 thus far has been Taylor Wine, the redshirt sophomore defensive end out of the state of Tennessee. 3.5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss, best on the team through 6 games. And what makes those numbers all the more impressive, Brandon, is he's been in a timeshare with Marvin Jones. So he's making his snaps count out there on the field. And Brent Venables, this is a story that we've told at OU Insider. We covered the recruitment start to finish back in the fall of 2022, but Brent Venables retold the story of how Colton Vasek's flip to Texas led Taylor Wine right to the Sooners' doorstep.
Look at this guy. Comes in here. He was one of those add-ons late. We had a guy, that decommitted late, and we found him immediately. I'm like, man, this guy might be every bit, if not better than the guy we lost. That's literally the conversation in the moment. Coach Chavis, he's ready to jump off the bridge down here at I-35, and I'm like, man, this guy is better, I'm telling you. And he wants to be here. And then there was a connection. His dad had worked here. They had lived in Oklahoma City, and they lived in Tennessee, but they had lived in Oklahoma City before, and they loved the Sooners. And then they wanted to commit before they even got here. And then you're like, whoa, I know we offered you, but you're not supposed to say yes right away. And that's just kind of a coaching thing. Now you're thinking there's something wrong, But next, he blew up, and all these people wanted him to, and it's a really cool story. And it's a good message for us too in recruiting. Find the right people. They got to be good enough, but find the right people, man. People matter. And his passion and his toughness, man, and his love for the game, his love for coaching, his love for discipleship is extraordinary. And he'll continue. It's not like they got to pay more attention. He'll figure it out. He's strong. He's physical. He's fast. He plays quick. He's got good instincts. Not perfect. Still, man, just tapping into what he's going to be. And he's been fun to watch.
Feels like the Sooners might have gotten the better end of the bargain there. I'm not sure that there's a might about it. If we look at pretty much every measurable category right now, Taylor Wine's making more of an impact at Oklahoma than Colton Vasek is at Texas.
I feel like we've been kind of redeemed. When during the recruitment, when all this happened, you put up the film. We're like, guys, go watch the film of Taylor Wine. It's crazy. If he played anywhere other than, I think it was Brentwood, Tennessee, he would have been probably a little bit more ballyhooed. The fact that he wanted to be a Sooner, his family's from Oklahoma. He spent a lot of time. He grew up an Oklahoma fan. Like, this whole thing was just a match made in heaven. And the irony in it is that Colton Vasek grew up wanting to be a Texas Longhorn his whole life because his dad, they both kind of flipped, and everybody was pissed because Colton Vasek looked like a surefire superstar coming out of high school. And lo and behold, 3 years later, Taylor Wine is one of the best defensive ends in the SEC and arguably college football. I mean, it's crazy how time changes stuff. But it's a great story because Chavis called him a godsend, literally called him a godsend when it landed on his desk the exact same day that Colton Vasek decommitted. And that's what he's been for this defense. He's been, 8.5 tackles for losses? He's you hate to use the word elite, but he's about as close as you can get right now on how he's playing.
And that feels like a guy that Oklahoma is going to be able to lean on, that can be a cornerstone of that defense for years to come, because he's only a redshirt sophomore.
It's crazy.
He's got 2 more years of eligibility ahead of him. And so as Oklahoma gets ready to graduate a very capable, very impactful class of defensive seniors, they're going to need new cornerstones. They're going to need new studs on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what Taylor Wine is becoming and should continue to be for this program moving forward. All right, folks, as we get ready for the Sooners road trip to South Carolina this weekend, OUinsider.com is the place to be for all of the insider coverage of OU football and recruiting. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, but the best way to support us is to go to OUinsider.com and subscribe over there. Try your first week for just $1. If you don't feel like it's worth it, you're not obligated to stick around. You can cancel. But again, 1 week for just $1. Give us a try. Give us a chance to earn your business. And we tend to believe that once you do try OU Insider, you're going to be inclined to stick around. For Brandon Drum, I am Parker Thune. We will see you this weekend from Columbia, South Carolina.